Okay, so I will share my screen. Just let me know if you can see it and then we can proceed. All right, can you see my screen and hear me
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so hello all, good evening and welcome to this session on Microsoft Ignite 2020 SharePoint as well as Microsoft Search updates. Myself, Nandadeep Nathan, I am Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services and here are a few of the social handles to get connected with me. So during Microsoft Ignite 2020, it was an exciting event as ever, and many of the new features, new enhancements, those were announced during Microsoft Ignite 2020, which gives more power to the users. So during this session, we will mostly concentrate around what are those from the SharePoint Admin Center perspective, SharePoint Insights and reporting announcements, then how you can migrate your content very easily to Microsoft 365, and what are the new enhancements that we have for security and compliance in SharePoint as well as OneDrive. So to start with, we will discuss SharePoint Admin Center announcements first. So SharePoint Admin Center is gradually getting aligned with Microsoft 365 suite design, because if you compare that with the old interface that we had with SharePoint Classic Admin Center, now that eventually it is moving to the modern experience. And during Microsoft Ignite 2020, Microsoft announced several updates to the overall SharePoint Admin Center experience. So with this kind of an COVID situation, we have a huge increase in the adoption of Microsoft Teams, and there is a huge increase in the adoption of Microsoft Teams for most of the organizations. So Microsoft Teams is supported by a SharePoint site. So as there is a new team that gets created in Microsoft Team, a new SharePoint site also gets created in the background. So with the increase in number of teams getting created, there will be more number of SharePoint sites too. And eventually this condition will have more SharePoint administration responsibilities. So considering those points, there are various improvements to the SharePoint Admin Center. So the newer enhancements capabilities are mostly focused on admin roles and experiences, newer tools to manage your sites better, and then insights for monitoring and reporting, which is right now in kind of a public preview. So while on premises, the management of SharePoint site was only focused on SharePoint. But as we are making our move to cloud with Microsoft 365, SharePoint site is associated with many other things like Microsoft Teams, Outlook, Office 365 group, and many more. So in turn, it gives lots of roles and we have lots of responsibilities. So whenever we start our journey from on-premises to cloud, there will be too many things that we'll have to take care from entire Microsoft 365 perspective, and not just from SharePoint perspective. So these new capabilities will help you focus on the entire Microsoft 365 instead of just concentrating on SharePoint. So there is something called as a coherent experience. So manage for managing all those things, we have many admin centers. So for example, we have admin centers for Microsoft Azure, then we have Microsoft 365 admin center itself. Then we have security and compliance, OneDrive, Exchange, Stream, SharePoint, Teams, and many more. So that means we have many admin centers to work with, and Microsoft is working to unify this experience by making a consistent design, naming conventions, and look and feel of all of those admin centers. Even as of today, if you go to SharePoint Admin Center, SharePoint Online Admin Center, in that case, you will see that most of the functionalities or tiles we have there, they are modern. So eventually Microsoft is planning to have that consistent design and unify experience all across those admin centers. Okay, so the major thing what has been changed or what has been come to SharePoint Online Admin Center or in Microsoft 365 are kind of granular roles. So these granular roles works on the principle of least privileges. So what that means is, for example, if someone needs any kind of an permission, so considering the security model, we should give them the minimum required permission to perform their task. For example, the admin or the global admin, SharePoint admin, those kind of an admin users can do many of the things, but we should not assign even the temporary roles for users for those kind of an scenarios, and we should mostly focus on to the least privileges. So the granular roles here help us to do all those things. See, and even over the time, Microsoft has added more granular roles to help administrator to limit the privileges of users. So this help us to keep the control of security risk and even achieve the principle of least privileges. So let's go to our SharePoint, no, Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So if you click Show All, we have this role right here. So once you click that role, you will be able to see all of the roles which are available all across Microsoft 365 experience. And here are various roles, and based on what kind of functionality you perform in your organization, you can get assigned to that role, and you will be able to make most of your work. But again, this is not just end of it. Even if you go to Azure Admin Center, and from there, okay, let it load. If you go to Azure Active Directory, which is associated with your Microsoft 365 tenant, and if you go to roles and administrator, so these are all the roles that we can see in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. But one good thing, like from this interface, you can create a new custom roles. So based on what kind of scenarios you want to target, you can create those roles. You can assign those permissions. Maybe if any of the users just need rights or just need permissions to create the application policies. So in that case, you can just give this minimum permission to that role, and your job will be done. So this entire scenario focuses onto the minimum role, or the minimum privileges roles. So one of the role which I just want to pay your attention to is called as a global reader. So if I scroll down here, that should be a global reader. Here it is. So that global reader role was recently introduced, which help us to view the admin features and settings in all of the admin centers that global admin can view. But good thing is that you cannot edit any settings. So this is one of the example of role that has been recently introduced. And with the role-based access become available, we can create roles specific to a certain functionality. That is, could be exchange admin, could be a compliance admin, guest inviter, or many more. So which will help us to assist the global administrator at the same time, ensuring that they will not have any additional role apart from their designated responsibilities, and this will help us to avoid any kind of an possible security breaches. So you can create your role based on what kind of functionalities you want to perform, and without giving any kind of an additional responsibilities or any additional permissions to the other users. Okay, so that was about those granular roles. And again, in the future, you can expect more of such roles into this admin center. But if you consider from SharePoint perspective, right now we just have SharePoint admin role, which is specific to SharePoint, even OneDrive. Okay, next thing is this coherent SharePoint admin center experience. So what is mean by that is, even if you go to SharePoint admin center today, so here we have this is again a kind of an old, not old, but again a bit moderate experience that we have for SharePoint Admin Center. Even I'm waiting in my tenant to get these new experience rolling out. But again, with this, we are getting some basic information like what are the activities being performed onto a SharePoint page, even the messaging center, and health about my SharePoint service. But sooner we will have even those visual or actionable cards by which right within this experience we will be able to have the capability to perform the site search, even we can see the message center. Even we are able to see it right now. And then we can continue to see the service health. Then we'll be able to see the active users inside SharePoint and OneDrive for Business. And then we will be even able to have the view of file activity, site creation breakdown, and usage of OneDrive as well as SharePoint, and even the sensitivity labels. Those are applied all across your SharePoint sites. So those functionalities will be rolled out sooner. Then next thing that we want to focus on mostly is active sites. So the SharePoint Admin Center now supports this editing of active site properties. So from SharePoint admin site, you can edit the properties of an active site. So again, if I go to my SharePoint admin center, we click the active sites. So from here, we will be able to edit any of the activities of, or sorry, any of the properties of this particular site. So from here, we can change the name of the site. Even from here, we'll be able to change the URL of the site. So once we change the URL of the site, it is like it will be reflected under that particular site. Even for example, if you have references of the same site across your site collection, those will get updated. But for example, if you have references outside, those will not get updated. Then again, from here itself, we'll be able to change or create any kind of an hub association. Template we cannot change, but at least these are the things that we'll be able to change right from this admin center. Next thing is managing the permissions. So at least earlier to this, we had to go to that particular admin, sorry, SharePoint site, go to the site settings, and from there itself, we were able to control the permissions for that particular site. So for example, if you want to add the owners to the site, members, site visitors, and other things, those has to be done from SharePoint site itself. But now that right within this admin center, you will be able to manage all those owners, members, and visitors from this interface, so that you don't have to go to the site, make that addition, and again come back. So right from here, you can just click this manage, add the name here, and you will be able to add the user as owner, member, or visitor. We have something called as an activity. So for example, if you want to track the activities happening onto your site, it can be done from here. So not in a um, full extent, but at least you will be able to track the higher level activities, like when the site was lastly active, last activity has happened onto this particular site, how many files are in this particular site, page views, then visits, and then other storage mechanism. So at least all those things will be with you directly. Previously, at least we had to write a few kind of a script, maybe a PowerShell script, which can help us to get these values, or at least we have to open the site, go to the site usage metrics, and from there we were able to pull out that information. But right now, all this information will be available right inside your SharePoint admin center. Is policies. So policies are again important now, because most of the users are working remotely, and then there is again a good chance of having any kind of an data leakage. So in those kind of circumstances, these policies will help us to get the security aspect consideration. So like from here, we will be able to um, see like whether this site should be externally shared, or even we can control the sensitivity of this particular label. So from here, we can attach any of the labels or the sensitivity labels that we have already created onto our site, sorry, onto our admin center, or all across our tenants. So from here, we'll be able to control both the settings, or at least otherwise this kind of a functionality wasn't available here itself. We had to go to the site settings, and from there we were able to control the external sharing, and from the admin center itself, or security and compliance admin center itself, we were able to control the sensitivity onto the site. but now both the experiences will be right within this admin center. Next thing is bulk editing. So for example, if you want to apply similar settings on multiple sites, those can be bulk edited. So while doing that bulk edit operation, we just have sharing, delete, and hub association option. So again, if I go to my SharePoint admin center, select few of these sites. So only thing what we can do with bulk editing is that we'll be able to control the sharing policies for those sites which we have selected. We'll be able to delete them from here directly, or we'll be able to change the hub association for those selected sites. So let's say, for example, you have created many sites, and now that you want to attach those to one hub. So in that case, you don't have to go individually to each of the site and make that association, but right within your admin center, you can select or multi-select those sites and have it associated with the hub. Okay, and then we have something called as views, because right now, whenever we see the admin center from here, maybe I will close this. So we have this kind of an views wherein we can select what type of information which we want to see. Again, at the end, we have something called as customize options. Sorry, customize columns. So from these customized columns, we'll be able to select what are the columns that we want to see inside our admin center. And again, for example, if any of the column is very much relevant or important to us, we can change its uh, position so that it will appear at the start or at the end of that view. So from here, we'll be able to control our views. Uh, Next thing is again, right within that view, we will be able to filter and sort our SharePoint sites. So for example, if you want to sort based on maybe the date created, that means older to newer or newer to older. For example, even if you want to filter based on who is the primary owner, so all those kind of an things can be directly done from admin center, because earlier at least we had to extract all this information maybe using a PowerShell and then apply filtering or sorting mechanism on top of it. But right now, all those functionalities can be done right within the SharePoint admin center. Then we have custom views. So for example, we are maybe tasked with something like for example, I just want to see my created sites. So in that case, what I will do is from the primary admin, I will select my user, and from here I'm able to see the sites which I have created. But it's like I think I clicked somewhere else. But yeah, but at least in this I will have to do it every time. So what I can do is as I made any of the selection here, you can see this star has appeared here. So that means something that I have changed. So if I click here and click save view as, I will be able to name or save this selection as a view. So maybe I will just type it as my sites, and once I click, those views will be available to us next time onwards, so that I will be able to see the views instead of repeatedly I'm going over those operations of sorting and filtering. I will be able to make my selection once, and from there I will save that view as a custom view. Again, one more thing is that, for example, whenever we log into this admin center, we see all those sites as a default view, and then we will from here we will select our view. But again, if you want that your created custom view should be set as a default, so in that case you can just click set current view as default, and then that view will appear to you as a default one when you will come to admin center. So right within this admin center, you are able to apply the filtering and sorting on these sites based on the condition what you want to use. And then you will be able to save your selection by creating a custom view. And if you are using that kind of a functionalities over and over again, In that case, you can set that view as a default, and each of the time when you will visit SharePoint Admin Center, that view will be available to you as a default. So let's say a use case here will be like maybe at the end of the week you want to create any kind of an reports. So you can apply this filtering and sorting on each of the columns, and then you can save it as a view, and um, probably you can even set that view as a default, and from there you will be able to directly get your report. And again, we have an export option here which will help you to export that view in a Excel format, so that even you can create a meaningful report out of it. So again, next thing is source of site creation. So what is mean by that is SharePoint is now also a destination for Microsoft Teams. So that means anyone, including SharePoint admin and even the end user, can create SharePoint sites directly or indirectly. So as a SharePoint admin, we should be able to track the source of creation. So that means who created the site and from where they created the sites. So again, technically speaking, we will be able to create the SharePoint sites, maybe using any kind of an APIs, maybe directly using the portal, uh, by connecting the Office 365 group to any of the SharePoint sites from a PowerShell directly within the SharePoint Admin Center, by having an association with Teams. For example, I create a team and in the background it has created a SharePoint site, or again if your site is connected with Yammer. So it is not like you have to be in a SharePoint Admin Center to create the SharePoint site. SharePoint site can get invoked from anywhere. So in that case, you have to have some kind of a mechanism by which you will be able to detect like what is the source of creation of this particular site. Otherwise, we won't be able to make out by looking at the site like from where it has got created. So this kind of an view will help you to create that. Right now, if I go to my admin center, I don't see that, but sooner there should be this option available by which you will be able to have the view created or the column added as a created from, and from there you will be able to select from where that particular site has got created. Then again, there is something related to this, that there is something called as Teams connected site, because again, Teams is a hugely used platform nowadays. So we want to mostly see the team which is associated with this particular site. So for example, if your site is associated with any of the team, in that case, again, there will be a column called as sites connected to teams, and that column will just show the teams icon, and once you click on that teams icon, it will open up the teams in a browser or in a client desktop client application. So from here, at least we'll be able to segregate the creation of SharePoint site from where that got created, and again who has created that. Next thing is replacing this root site or swapping off this root site from UI. So if you remember in some recent time, we had a PowerShell API called as invoke-SPO site swap. So earlier we had this PowerShell option to swap the root site, so that the scenario here was like, for example, if you have created your tenant in a very long time, maybe 3 to 4 years back, in that case, you must be seeing the classic SharePoint site as the root of your tenant. So whenever you go to tenant.sharepoint.com, you were able to see that classic site. But now that, for example, if you want to change that root site and you want to replace that root site with any of the other site, we had that PowerShell called as invoke SPO site swap. But now that even if you are not comfortable running the PowerShell, or even if you don't have those kind of an expertise to invoke the PowerShell, in that case, now we have an option right in the browser by which we can make any of the site as a root site. So for example, let me check if I have it in my tenant. So for example, if I select this site, here should be an option to make that site as the root site. Unfortunately, I don't have it here in my tenant, but at least from there you will be able to make a use of that replace site. Okay, no, I don't have it here. But once you select the site, there will be option to replace site, and you can replace the. Oh, sorry, I think I selected the wrong site. So let me go back to the all sites, and here I will have to open the root site. I have too many sites that got created, but if I go to the root site, from there I should be able to change it. So yeah, this is my root site. Now we have a replace site. So from here, for example, if I want to change the root site to any of the other site, I can just paste that URL here, and then that particular site will become the root site of my SharePoint. Again, if you try to do this operation on any other site, it is not available, but it will be only applicable to the root site, so that you can replace another site as a root site. Okay, so that was about all of the new things that we have for SharePoint Admin Center. Again, one more thing that is new to the SharePoint Admin Center itself is SharePoint Insights and reporting. So what is meant by that is, again, right now, even if you go to your SharePoint Admin Center, it will be a fairly simple SharePoint Admin Center. If you go to home, we just have 4 tiles here, which are showing the file activity reports, site usage report, message center, and the service health. But now this kind of an experience will be replaced with newer dashboard, by which you will be able to get most out of the admin center, because from here you will be able to see all of the things which probably you have to go to SharePoint Admin Center, sorry, Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and pull the information from there. But all those functionality will be available to you right within this SharePoint Admin Center. So that functionality will again include this site search, message center, and service health we already have. Then again, it will give you the active users like this one, by which we'll be able to make out how many active users do we have across the timeline. And then again, site usage, activities, storage, and all those kind of a thing will be available right within the SharePoint Admin Center as an actionable cards. So actionable cards, that means those won't be just the simple cards like this, but on those cards you will be able to take the action and get the information. So for example, we have this card called as site search. So in this we can search for a particular site. So let's say I know the name of the site, but maybe I don't recollect that entirely, or maybe I know the title of the site, but I don't recollect the entire URL. So in that case, I can just put either title or URL here, and from here we will be able to get all of those sites which are related to that title or URL. So all those functionalities will be here. So for that reason, they are called as an actionable card, because they won't be just showing the information, but you will be able to go ahead and utilize that information, or even ask for more information right within the SharePoint Admin Center. The next thing, or it is the most tempting thing, is like migrating your content to Microsoft 365. So like we have our data that is scattered across on-premises network, or even onto other cloud stores. And for example, if you want to migrate this to Microsoft 365, the new migration capabilities allows you to migrate the content from various sources. So maybe you can use this migration manager to move the file shares content to the cloud. Even using the migration manager and mover, you can move your content from other cloud storage providers to Microsoft 365. And again, using the SharePoint migration tool, you can move your on-premises server content into OneDrive, Teams, or even to SharePoint. So most of the sources that we have from where we can migrate our content to Microsoft 365 are file shares, other cloud storage providers, including Box, G Suite, Dropbox. And if you're specifically targeting SharePoint Server, then on the on-premises, we do have support for SharePoint Server 2010, 13, and 2016. We right now don't have any support for 2019, and ideally there should not be because it is the latest on-premises version available for SharePoint. So let's look at all of those things. But yeah, before we look into the migration thing, the major thing is an assessment. So the assessment capabilities are again a new addition that has been added to SharePoint or even all across Microsoft 365. So our migration journey always starts with an assessment. So we don't directly go and migrate our site or content to Microsoft 365, but it always starts with an assessment. So the migration manager, SharePoint migration tool and mover, it offers the inbuilt assessment capabilities. And again, using this Azure information protection, you can start classifying and labeling your file share content even before you start migrating your content to Microsoft 365. So for SharePoint perspective, we have a tool called as SMAT, SharePoint Migration Assessment Tool. And using the AIP, we'll be able to apply the labels or classify our documents even before we start our migration. So that it won't be like the content will come to Microsoft 365. If no one notices, it will go unprotected, and then we will apply the protection policies on top of it. But right before starting your migration, you will be able to perform that data classification. So let's look into each of those options. Firstly, the file share migrations. So using this migration manager, we'll be able to perform the file share migration across Microsoft Team, SharePoint, and OneDrive. So this is again a two-step process. Firstly, that we will have to download and install that agent onto our Windows computer, and then we can create the migration task. So let's see that in action. So here I don't have any file share as such, but I just have created a folder, and from here I just have shared that folder. So this is the shareable link that I have. Okay, and inside this folder, um, I have few files. Those are PPT, PDF, and Word file. So let's go to SharePoint Admin Center, open up the migration here. And now that we want to perform the migration from file share to Microsoft 365, so we will choose this option and click Get Started. Once we are here, since we haven't done any migration activities before from this server, it will ask you to download the agent setup file. So which will be just an exe. So once you open up that exe, it will take you through a small setup process. Okay, it is just installing the prerequisites. Okay, next. So now that it will ask us to sign into our Office 365 account. So we'll do it quickly. Okay. Okay, so once we sign in, now that this manager has got access to our Office 365 tenant or Microsoft 365 tenant, next thing is that since we are dealing with the file share, we also provide this agent the Windows account that has got at least read access to the file share. So since my file share is here and the user with which I have logged in has got admin rights on that, I can provide that. So let me put my password here. Oh, think wrong. Okay, and once it is done, we can click install, and so that we will be able to perform the migration from file share to our Microsoft 365. So here we will provide the shareable path that we have. Even we can test it here, and it validates that the user account which I have provided has got access to the file share. Okay, and that's it. We will close this. So now that if I refresh this, yeah, now you can see that that kind of an block of instruction that we had got reflected into get started. So we will click get started here. So firstly that we have agent that is installed. So if I go to agents tab, now we can see that we have this agent here. Maybe you'll be able to see it very down under. So we have this agent which is running on this particular machine. The next task is that we should create a migration task. So for that, we will click add task. Again, in this add task, we have multiple things. Firstly, it's like, for example, if you want to just perform this migration from a single source, we can provide that. To the bulk migration, we will come a bit later, which happens with CSV or a JSON file. So we'll select the single source, we'll click next. Then here we can specify the path of our source, which is a file share. Click next, and then it will ask us where you want to migrate that site. Migrate those documents. So either you can have your SharePoint site URL here, OneDrive URL here, or even the Teams location. So to make it very simple, I will have the SharePoint site as it is, and from here we can select either any of the document library, or for example, if your document library has got any folders, you can even select those. So I will go ahead with the plain document library. Even let me copy this URL so that we'll be able to check it later. Okay, we'll click next, and to this we'll have to give task a name. So I will call it as SP migrate from file share. Okay. Again, there are many things like if you just want to perform any scan, or even if you want to preserve any kind of an file sharing permissions that we have in the all settings. Again, there are filters like, do you want to migrate the hidden files, or do you want to specifically migrate the files those are created after a certain date, or those have been modified after a certain date. Again, for example, if you want to migrate the sites based on their extension, let's say I just want to migrate only CSV, docs, PDF, we can even do that. And even if you want to migrate the files and folders with invalid characters, so all those kind of things we have. Once it is done, we can click run now. So that particular task will get queued, and sooner it should hit, and it should be able to perform the migration. It is still queued. Maybe I can select this. Okay, I'm not able to run because it is right now queued. So again, it must be waiting on that particular agent to pick up that task. It is still queued, but okay, sooner it should work, and we should be able to see our data in SharePoint. But again, based on the server performance and other factors, it might take some time. But right now it is queued, and sooner it should be done. Okay, it is still queued, but not an issue. We will move with our next steps, and we will recheck this later on. But again, one more thing is that you can create as many number of tasks you want to add here. So even you can create multiple tasks, and again, yeah, for this bulk migration, you can select this bulk migration, and again there's a CSV which is attached to it. So I have that CSV maybe in the downloads folder. Do I have? Yeah, here is the bulk migration CSV. So that CSV has got a very simple format. Even it is available onto the MSDN. That in the first column we just have to mention from where we want to migrate. Then they have two columns empty, and then in the last column we should just specify the target location where we want to migrate the content. So with that, at least it might take some time to get the migration done. It may be just waiting for my client to get ready, or agent to get ready, and it might not be working, but at least it will be able to pick up the task from here. and it can run from here then. Okay, I don't think, yeah, all right, so maybe we can wait for this, not an issue. But again, a few of the tips and tricks when you are performing this kind of an file share migrations. So you will be able to increase the migration throughput by adding multiple migration agents. Again, each agent is running onto each machine. So if you can add up more machines to your migration exercise, from there you'll be able to increase the migration throughput. And again, good thing is that we can manage up to 50,000 tasks in a migration manager. And again, let's say for example, if any of the task fails while running, from here you will be able to see the reason, like why it has failed. And again, from here you can select this task and rerun from here. So right now it is queued, so it is not running. But if it is failed or if you want to rerun, you can select that task and again click run, and it will get run again. Okay, so this is how you will be able to migrate from file share. Next thing is cloud migration. So here we have got few options, like for example, if you want to migrate from G Suite, Dropbox or Box to Teams, SharePoint or OneDrive. So even we'll be able to migrate that using Mover. So most of you might have known that late last year Microsoft acquired Mover. So using these Mover capabilities, we'll be able to perform this kind of an cloud migration. So again, if we go back to migration here, uh, here we have Mover. So once you click go to Mover, it will take you to mover.io, where you'll have to create a login, and from there you will be able to select the source and destination, and from there you'll be able to perform the migration. So it is like simply you'll just have to sign in maybe with your Microsoft account with which you have already signed into Microsoft 365 portal. And once you are there, you can select the source. So it could be Box, Dropbox, or even G Suite, and from there you will be able to migrate your content to Microsoft 365. So this is that experience. So from the source, you can at least select maybe the Dropbox and other things, and in the destination you can select the Microsoft 365, and then from here you'll be able to perform that migration. So that was, and then the most interesting part is SharePoint migration tool, that is SPMT. So from SharePoint Server 2010, 2013, 2016, as well as from file shares, using this SPMT, we will be able to make our migrations to Teams, um, SharePoint, and OneDrive. So again, I have one SharePoint 2016 server with me, and I have a fairly simple site in SharePoint 2016. And for example, if you want to migrate this particular site to SharePoint Online, in that case, we can again go to SharePoint Admin Center, to the migration, and here we have download SPMT. So from here it will download as an exe. Once you click that exe, run it, it will again ask you to for the credentials to get connected to Office 365, because we will be obviously running this tool from a machine where we have SharePoint 2013 or 2016 installed. So it is still downloading. Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. So here we can log into our Office 65. Okay. And the site that we have is a fairly simple site. We don't have much complications there. But if I just go to site contents, I have a lot of content here. Again, I'm experimenting this with what happens to the pages and other things, but mostly I'm trying with the content. So from here you can click start new migration. You can either select the SharePoint server or file share again, or for bulk migration JSON or CSV format. So let's say we will select SharePoint server, and and here we want to specify the source URL, which is this one. This is my local SharePoint 2016 site. We'll click next. It will ask us to authenticate to that site. Okay. Once we get authenticated, then the next thing is that do we need to include all of these subsites, and then what kind of content you want to migrate. So for example, we want to migrate all of the list, libraries, pages, and web parts, or these are the list of SharePoint list that I have in that site. So if you just want to migrate only a specific content or specific list, you can choose those and those will get migrated. So we'll select maybe migrate all of this list, click next, and here we can select do we want to move it to Microsoft Teams or a SharePoint team site. So we'll just select SharePoint team site, and here I will specify that SP 2016 demo. So one thing to note that I don't have these sites pre-existing onto my Microsoft 365 tenant, but I can still specify that value, and once we click next, it will go ahead and check for the existence of the site. If it doesn't exist, even this tool will create that site for you, add you as an admin to that particular site, and then it will perform the migration. But we have got one warning here, because on my site I have a few pages onto which I have intentionally added the script editor or the content editor web parts. So now that it is saying that since my Office 65 tenant doesn't allow running of scripts onto the site, all of those web parts which contains those script will not be functioning. So we will accept with this risk, because anyways those are not the um, guidelines from Microsoft. We should not use those script editor and content for SharePoint sites. So we'll click next, and here we should name our migration. So by default it gives the date and time at which you are starting the migration, but if you want to have some meaningful name to your migration, it can be done from here. Again, you can just save it as a template for later use, or you can just click next to start your migration. Again, before starting the migration, there are various other options, like if you just want to perform that scanning, that SMAT assessment. Again, during migration, do you want to preserve the SharePoint permissions, permission inheritance, version history, as well as user mapping? So if you click this view all setting, from here you will be able to specify the user mapping file. So that user mapping file will have mapping of your on-premises users to your cloud users. And once it is done, you can maybe close this window, select your settings, and then click migrate. So this will create a task for you for a migration. And I know that this particular site took me maybe 13 to 14 minutes to get migrated. But if you want to check out the reports, you can click this view reports, and it will take you to some file path where it will create those log files. Even you can see the files have started coming through. So uh, but at least this tool will help you to migrate your content from SharePoint 2016, 2010, or even SharePoint 2013 to Microsoft 365. So since when I was trying this migration, I did it on uh, this site here on SharePoint Online. If I go to site contents here, now you can see that this is entirely a new site. We don't have anything here directly coming from SharePoint 2016 site as such, but we will have to redesign that part. Most of the thing is mostly the content, pages, and web parts, whatever we have, those have been here. So all of my list, along with the content as well as the permission which I had, the unique permissions, those have got migrated. So this tool will help you to perform your migration from any of the SharePoint on-premises server and file shares to Teams or SharePoint Online. Okay, so coming to the last part, there are also a few security and compliance advancement that got announced to SharePoint as well as OneDrive. So first thing was automatic expiration of external access. So in order to better manage sharing, Microsoft 365 admins will be able to create a policy to revoke guest access to SharePoint site and individual OneDrive after kind of an defined period of time. So here we can select that particular time after which the OneDrive or SharePoint site expiration will disable or it will go away. So with this policy, you can limit the guest user access so that guest user who are no longer active partners with your organization will not retain indefinite access to the documents and files. So all of those access will go away after this certain amount of time. And again, this is the experience from SharePoint side. So for example, if you have given any external user access to your SharePoint site, even it will ask you for the renew or extending that particular access or removing that access. So this is again in public preview, but you should be able to see this soon inside your SharePoint sites. So there will be something called as an access expiration by which you can extend or remove the access for external users right within your SharePoint site. Next thing is external sharing policies with Microsoft Information Protection Sensitivity labels. So these sensitivity labels are coming soon in public preview. But with this, you can now associate external sharing policies to the sensitivity labels. So for example, for confidential label, you may choose to block external sharing access, whereas for general label, you may allow it. So for example, if you set that confidentiality label onto any of your library or a document, none of the user will be able to externally share that. So right from that label, you will be able to control the access policies. Thirdly, that we have access governance insights for files in SharePoint, OneDrive, and also for Teams. So you can see the access insights for your top sites with most sensitive documents and or the shared sites. So from here you will get the idea of which are the toply viewed sensitive documents and overshared sites. That means the site which has got more number of external sharing enabled. So from here you'll be able to see that information. Next thing is unified session logout. So from here you will be able to sign out of all the my Office 65 sessions. So what is the business case behind this is we can prevent the data loss in the event of device lost or theft or even account compromise. So with one click in Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you can now sign out that particular user instantly from all their sessions on all the devices, including both managed as well as unmanaged devices. So that for example, if your account got hacked or your device got stolen, you don't have to worry about the data. At least data will remain safe because you have initiated that sign out of all of the Office 65 sessions. Next thing is information barriers. So again, this is kind of a relatively newer concept by which you will be able to isolate the users from each other. So most probably in the banking sectors, the financial advisors should not have any kind of an interaction with the investment banker. So for that, probably we were doing some kind of an permission handling before, but now that we have right information barriers available, so that both those parties will not be able to see their content or even they will not be able to communicate with each other. Once we set those information barriers for SharePoint, Teams or OneDrive, they won't be able to see each other's content. So for example, like you may have compliance need to put the barriers in collaboration and communication between certain set of users inside your organization, and this will help you to avoid the conflict of interest, and you can achieve this with information barrier. So you can select your site There will be something called as an information segment. You can select that segment, and only users from that particular segment will be able to see that content. This way, you will be able to avoid that conflict of interest. And then lastly, we have Microsoft 365 Network Insights. So again, network connectivity to Microsoft 365 is very much important to offer the best performance experience to all of your users for accessing the Microsoft 365 content as well as the services. So this network insights will help you in designing the network perimeters for your office locations across the globe, and even these insights will provide you the live performance data for common issues for each of the geographic location where users are accessing your content from. So from here, for example, if there is any kind of an outage for your users connecting to your Microsoft 365 tenant, you'll be able to quickly notice that and take a action on that. So this network insights will help you in those perspectives. And yeah, here are few of the references if in case you want to get few more information about maybe SharePoint, Project Cortex, as well as new SharePoint admin and migration capabilities, newer security and compliance offerings from SharePoint or OneDrive for Business. You can read out this content. And with that, I think I'm done from my side. Thank you. Kirti, you can
Yeah,
take over.
yeah, thank you, Nandip. Just sharing my screen and let me know if you can see.
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Nandip. Good evening and welcome to this session, Microsoft Ignite 2020 SharePoint updates. So myself, Kirti Prajapati, and I'm going to explain a few more things which has been announced for SharePoint as well as Microsoft Search. So today I'm going to explain few things regarding Microsoft list announcements, then SharePoint syntax. I will not go much more in SharePoint syntax because we are also planning to have this uh, the individuals a webinar session on SharePoint syntax. So I will just highlight few points and then I will jump into that innovations for workplace communication and employee engagement in Microsoft 365 and what are the new capabilities they have announced in Microsoft Search. So as you know that Microsoft has began rolling out this Microsoft list in Microsoft 365 back in July 2020, and we also had a couple of webinars on that just to just a considering an introduction. So Microsoft List is a Microsoft 365 app that helps you to track information and organize your work. And as you know that lists are simple, smart and flexible. So whatever matter most to learn your team. So you can use the track issues, assets, routines, contacts, inventory and more using customizable views and smart rules, because this all the capabilities are available in most of the tenant now. So with this announcement, they are just trying to have a few more points like you can try the Microsoft List app for iOS. So that is still in preview. So the List app for iOS is ready for preview and it brings mobile access to the list you own and that have been shared with you as well. So you can create new list, edit list item and easily share with other people from this mobile app, iOS app itself. And then let's say for example you work across rows and columns with Microsoft list and by mistake something happens and you might have deleted some record. So now we will have the capabilities to undo and redo for that item. So the same is true in reverse. If there was something in a field previously that you in fact like, so it could be for record as well as the field both. And then the another base part is you can take your list offline. So you will be able to view and edit your list whether you have a connection to the internet or not. So offline is both a state of mind and an opportunity to remain productive. Like if you don't have any internet connection, then also you can take it as offline and do your work for that specific list. And the fourth point is you can also notify people by mention with the mention in list comments. So you can get a colleague's attention to an item in a list by just mention in the comment section here with the @ and the name of the person to whom you would like to comment on. So that capability will be available for the list when you open that list item in edit mode. So these are the four major points they have announced for Microsoft List. And now for the major announcement they made for the SharePoint syntax. So you know that last year Microsoft announced that Project Cortex, and that applies the advanced AI to empower people with knowledge and expertise in the apps they use every day, for example, EMR or some other apps. So SharePoint syntax, this is the first product from Project Cortex, and it basically uses advanced artificial intelligence and machine teaching to amplify human expertise, as well as help us to automate the content processing and transform that those content into the knowledge. So that will be very useful when we have that in our tenant and we can implement such scenarios. So this is the availability of SharePoint syntax is already there. So let me open that URL. So from here you can get that SharePoint syntax. It is available if you want to purchase it, or you can just give it a try and use the free trial version, and then you can have some hands-on on that and understand that what are the functionalities or what are the features you can achieve using that SharePoint syntax. Okay. So the main 4 points I'm just going to explain is we can use SharePoint syntax content center, then digital image processing, then document understanding and form processing. So basically the content center is like based on the leading content services of SharePoint. Then the syntax introduces a new experience for machine content to at a scale, like integrating metadata and workflows and delivering compliance automation. So these are all covered in this content center. So content center supplies capabilities to teach the cloud how to read and process the documents the same way you would manually. So it will like there are a number of steps available, or kind of algorithm will be there which can allow to make this process automate. And SharePoint syntax uses those insights to automatically recognize the content, the extract important information, and apply metadata tags. So this is the process that how it will identify, recognize the content and extract some of the important information from the document, and then apply the metadata tags automatically. So there is no need to apply the tags manually. It will find what has been extracted, and based on that, it will apply the tags over there. And in addition to that, you can also track the effectiveness of your models with integrated visual analytics. And like most information, like worker spends an inordinate amount of time combined through content, extracting important information and passing that information forward in a business process. So this is how it will look like. And regarding the digital image processing, so one of the simplest ways to get started is with our tools for enhancing image processing. So SharePoint syntax can automatically tag images as well using a new visual dictionary, and there will have thousands of commonly recognized objects as well. So in addition to that, it also reorganize, convert extracted handwritten text as well, and that could be extracted into tags for search and further processing. So those component can be used for search and further processing if you want. And then we have the document understanding. So most of the organizations are generating the vast amount of unstructured documents For example, we might have the manuals, then the contract documents, and some of the resumes we are getting from different candidates. So you can teach SharePoint syntax to read your content the way you would using this machine teaching to build artificial intelligence model with no code. So we can also have that capability using SharePoint syntax to read the document and find what content we are looking out for from that, and based on that we can extract those. So SharePoint syntax can automatically suggest or create metadata, invoke custom Power Automate workflows, and attach compliance labels to enforce if you want have if you like to have the retention policies or a kind of record management policies. So that can be done using this document understanding process. And the last one is the form processing. So if you are like many information workers and you have tasks including processing forms, for example, if you have the invoices, then sales reports, then sales orders and the purchase orders. So you can spend time extracting some of the information, then you can transfer it to Excel or some other database and pass that information forward in the business process. So this is how you can get the information, extract it, transform it, and you can utilize for further process. So SharePoint syntax includes a powerful form processing engine that is basically based on AI Builder that lets you automatically recognize and extract its common values from semi-structured or structured documents, such as, for example, if our document may have some dates, figures, names, or addresses on the document or on the sales order or the purchase order, then these models are built with no code and only require a small number of documents for reliable results. So this is how we can have this kind of capabilities using this. So I'll just walk you through about how this SharePoint syntax demo will work. So let's say, for example, if we have this site and I want to have this SharePoint syntax capabilities here. So I'm just clicking on one of the document library and then creating one document and just giving the name. So you can see new document understanding model. I'm just giving the name and creating a new content type within that and clicking on that. Now these are the 4 steps I was mentioning that you can add the files, then you have to train that train your this document to identify that the accuracy of the content. Then so let's say, for example, I'm opening this contracts folder and just pulling out all the documents into that, and now I will try to train my classifier, the classify files, and run training. So it will help me to find that what would be the best options for me. So I'm just selecting one uh, document from this folder, and you can see on the right hand section, is this file an example of external contracts? So you have 2 options, yes or no. So I'll select yes for this. So I'm just trying to select couple of document with yes and a couple of document with no, and then we'll see how it will train this selected documents with say, this SharePoint syntax. So now it's time to train all the documents. So I'm just clicking on the train, and I need to add the explanation for this one. So just adding it, give your name, then save it and exit. Now it will extract the information from the document. So it will create and train extractor. So click on that and just give it a name. So I want to extract the information for contract date. So I'm just selecting this field from this drop down, and you can see in my document I have this date July 1, 2018. So I want to keep this to extract from the document, and then I just go with the next, then add an explanation, select phrase list, then explanation library, Then I'm just selecting the date, and the date explanation library from date. Yeah, so you can see here it is now green color is there, so it is extracting the information I am looking out for, and you can see it says that 100% accuracy found for this document. So this is how the extracting the content will work for this SharePoint syntax. So this is just a simple one part of this, but there are other things that you can achieve using that, but that will cover up in the webinar session where we are having this whole session only on SharePoint syntax. Now, the third point, yeah, so that's all about the SharePoint syntax. Now, I'll explain few things about innovation for workplace communications and employee engagement in Microsoft 365. So in Microsoft Ignite, they have announced some innovations that transform the workplace communications and empower communicators with integrated storytelling tool to inform and engage and inspire people across the organization. So these innovations are informed by you or maybe customers or kind of users. So there are like 5 6 announcement on that. So first is the home site app for Microsoft Teams. So that brings your home site and the base of your intranet directly into Microsoft Teams. So the, the portal you are looking for your SharePoint site and in the Teams, it could be seamless. The home site apps give your user global navigation across site communications and Teams, quickly access to sites they use regularly, and a personalized news feed as well. And the second thing is SharePoint app bar. So it will like create a consistent navigation experience for every site on your intelligent intranet, feature quick access, and some of the news feeds. And the third one is the boost news in SharePoint. So it helps us to prioritize important news and announcements to appear at the top of news feeds across your Microsoft 365. So that is there, you can have that capability once that feature is available. And another point is share news to email, Microsoft Teams, and Yammer. So you can share a news article directly to your audience's team, community, or inboxes. So there are a number of options from where you can share this news within the organization and with different peoples. And then we have the enhancements for communications in Yammer. So this will help us to send notifications for priority announcements to the inbox of all community members, or it may raise the visibility of a post by featuring it in the community and discover feed. So you can use or you can share that specific information in Yammer app itself. And then we have the built-in templates. So it will help us to quickly deploy robust scenarios by using predefined sites that might integrate the superpower of M365 and help us to easily customize built-in templates as per our requirement. For example, if we have the templates for leadership connection and we want to apply them to any existing SharePoint site to give it a new superpower, then we'll have the design available with us. And then we have the insights for communicators. So this will help us to understand our reach, then what is the impact and engagement across Microsoft 365 by using new analytics SharePoint. uh, and that also combines the insights with analytics in Yammer, such as enhanced community insights, live events, and questions and answers. So these are the points that we they have announced as an innovation point. So let me explain you one by one on that. So this is the intelligent intranet and Teams better together experience on Microsoft Teams. So you can see the user may have the same user interface on both the site which brings your home site and the base of your intelligent intranet to Teams. And this app gives users a gateway to your organizations, starting with the app's name and icon. You can see everything is similar, including app name and icon, which you can customize to reflect the identify of your organization on your intranet. And with this, the home site app, people also can tap into news and resources across the intelligent intranet without leaving the hub for teamwork. And communicators can build and deliver rich communication experience in Microsoft Teams. Yeah, Teams. So you can see in the left navigation, we have all the capabilities available: My Sites, then quick access, company information, and the same thing is for this uh, the same look and feel for the home site as well. And the second thing is global navigation and news on any site. So the new SharePoint app bar brings a consistent navigation experience to every site on your intelligent intranet, featuring quick access to important site across organizations, personally relevant sites. Then if you have any news feeds, so that is there in the global navigation. Then improvements to news feeds and digests. So the news feed delivers an intelligent view of news that is targeted to you based on factors like your role or location, and further personalized based on signals in Microsoft Graph about where and how and with whom you work. So sometimes it happens that we need to boost the visibility of important news articles in the feed rather than relying solely on artificial intelligence. So you can see in the right hand side section, we have number of options like boost duration, so you can use until news post in viewed. There are different radio buttons available. So if you want to have something for a specific time frame, then you can just select the date, and that news will be available for the users as a important news for this date only. So this is how you can have this capability to share this news with users. And then as I mentioned that we have this capability to reach and engage people in the app they use every day. So here I have just give the example of Yammer. So to reach your audiences and encourage conversation about the item, you can spark richer engagement with superpower of these apps. For example, you can share this article. So this is news article, and I want to share with users to Yammer. So you can add a poll to measure sentiment or share it as a question to different source. So this is how you can share a specific article or news within the app using the Yammer with your community. And then you have the capability to create captivating communication experiences. So as I mentioned that we have the built-in templates available which can give us an any existing site and extreme makeover. So templates like the as I mentioned, the leadership connection. So you can see this is the leadership connection template that have been purpose built to support specific scenarios. So they integrate the extremely superpower of SharePoint and other M365 experiences, and that will help us to deliver a beautiful out of the box design that you might can customize with no code to reflect your branding and your need. So we can use the out of the box templates available, and we can have this content available for accessing the portal. And then we have the better measure the impact of your communication. So it's the same way, like it will help us to communicate in a better way. Now I'll explain few more things about the SharePoint, sorry, Microsoft Search. So there are a lot of announcement has been done for SharePoint Search. So basically there are new search features and some other features available for users to have that information with us. So the first one is the people centric. So I'll just jump into that with this screenshots. So people centric, like Microsoft Search, as you know, that has always put people first and at the center of search. So usually when you are searching for information, you work from home, work from its edges to its center. In the same way, we may build a puzzle. So it's people who create and curate this knowledge, and we believe that allowing you to anchor on that person, their knowledge, and solve the information that will help us to answer what you are looking out for. So these are the capabilities that you can search for the people centric content from the portal. And the second one is find skills and experiences, expertise. So that will help us to identify that what you need through individual knowledge, and we are expanding that experience to allow users to not only find information but also insights and expertise as well. Like if I want to search something and I might have some knowledge on this topic, then I can have that capabilities in Microsoft Search. Now I can find that with the skills and experience as well. And the third one is the Power BI search. So Power BI is the like Power BI and this SharePoint search. Uh, every month we may see that now it is very easy to find Power BI artifacts such as reports and dashboards by expanding the ability to search across these artifacts in SharePoint and Office.com in addition to Bing. So this capability is available now. You can have that option in the search with the Power BI tag, and you can find from your SharePoint portal as well as the Office 365 site as well. And then we have this conversation search. So everywhere we look and everywhere we work, we will find some information or a kind of content. And sometimes this might overwhelming when we are trying to put it all into one context. So you can also have that conversations tab, and you can find like what type of search keyword you are looking out for, which has been used in any conversation within the team. So that capability will be there. And then the same thing applies for the image search. If you want to have kind of uh, search for specific image, then we can also have that scope, search scope for the image as well. Then we have the improved filter design and new filters. So this is new out of the box filters that will make it easier to find what you are looking out for, whether that could be a file, presentation page, or something else, in addition to precisely searching for the most up-to-date information. So you can have the filtration available, like what type of content you're looking out for. Then we have this person query history. So if you want to search something related to like search something we use every day a lot, and it is hard to keep track of what you last search. So you can have that track available with you, and based on the personal query history, you can also find that what has been searched by this user. And then you can also use the same searching criteria uh, for your next search result. And now these are some new and improved answers in Microsoft Search. So the first would be the acronym answers. So acronym answers are currently available in SharePoint and Office 365 in addition to Bing. So and that might be available soon in Outlook Wave, Outlook Mobile, and Teams Mobile, as well as the Office apps like Word document, Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So acronym answer could be there. So you can see if I search with something GDPR, then it will give me the whole name of the what the keyword I'm looking out for, and it will give that information. And then we have the calendar answers. So the calendar answer is available for enterprise users as of now in the US market, and is soon going to be available on Outlook on the web, Outlook Windows, Outlook for Android, with support for Microsoft accounts in other markets. So you can have the answers within the calendars as well. And then we have these file answers. So file answers also available, initially be available on Outlook, and that is for the US market, and then follow in other Outlook clients in other markets later this year. So these are the three major answering points. They have mentioned that uh, acronym, calendar, and file answers. And then they have some new announcement for search wherever you are working. So you can search from Microsoft Teams, Outlook, then Windows. So there is no need to jump into somewhere else if you want to search something from your Office 365 10, and then there is no need to go into your portal. So for example, for Microsoft Teams, as your organization's use of Teams grows, so does content stored in Teams, giving you a rich and history of messages, files, meetings, or the content you have shared during the meeting and other organization knowledge to draw on. So that will be easily searched from there as well. And then we have the Outlook. And then searching is the second most popular activity behind all the emails. Like you can search whatever the email you are looking out from your Outlook. And over the next several months, maybe Microsoft will bring new search innovation to help you find and discover with more accuracy in lesser time. So that is there for the Outlook. And another thing for Windows is Microsoft Search is designed to meet you wherever you working, and now uh, your desktop as well. So coming soon to Windows 10 operating system, when you logged in with your work account, you will be able to search across your local and organizational content right from the Windows search box. So there is no need to open anything specific, whether it's a team or Office 365 portal. And then last one is the Microsoft Office. So Microsoft is with you everywhere you go, either on mobile in the browser or on your desktop or on your laptop. So Microsoft Search has been a part of Office 365 for some time already for enterprise users, and making it super simple to find apps and get back to files and access to all the knowledge in enterprise from in one place. So now the familiar Microsoft Search experience has also come to the consumeroffice.com. So with the recent this announcement, we can target this very soon in our all the tenants, or the capabilities will be with all the users who are using this Microsoft Search. And there are other options available, like in the interest of time, we might have some other information available later on. So just one point, that a new way to take advantage of Microsoft Search is like for customers who may not have an Office 365 subscription, then they might provide a kind of standalone Microsoft Search service. So using that, your employees can find information quickly and precisely. So that could be a kind of one more advantage on that. So this is all about uh, Microsoft Search and the new features they have introduced during the Ignite. Yeah, thank you, Vignesh.